Welcome to Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, a podcast that illuminates real solutions to common problems within the parking industry. I'm your host, Brian Wolff, CEO of Parker Technology, and in each episode, I'll introduce you to real parking pros that will bring their own tips, tricks, and best practices to manage what we all know is harder than it looks, parking a car.
On today's episode of Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, we actually have a special treat for you. Recently, our team went to PIE25 in Schaumburg, and we recorded 20 different parking professionals and their stories about how their role is harder than it looks. So in between each guest, you'll hear this noise. And that's how you'll know that a new parking professional has entered the Harder Than It Looks hot seat. Thank you for listening.
So the big idea is tell us who you are, who you work for, what your company does, and then we'll get into a little parking chitter chatter.
Sure. David Weber, work for Umojo,
Yeah.
head of sales. We do a few things. Obviously, some of it's call center based like you guys do.
Yeah.
We also do a lot of curb management. That's where we're focusing now, working with cities to help them understand their curbs and make it more equitable for everybody.
Yeah. So you guys are doing smart cameras, right?
Yep.
And you've developed smart signs that you can change. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a paper white sign that can change. So instead of having a pole that has 7 different things on it, we can change that throughout the day, or the client can change it on the back end and make it so it's maybe these zones change. Why does it have to be a loading zone all day? Why can't it be a paid zone? And then maybe it's a Uber or Lyft or whatever that may be.
Yeah. That's great. And so how's the traction?
It's been good because we're working with San Jose. We just started with Buffalo, Minneapolis, Seattle. Buffalo's interested in the signs. Each one has a little different part of it.
Yeah, of course.
And it's been well received, and it's been part of like federal grants. Yeah, these cities have gotten, and we've won some bids. So it's been a good run.
Nice. Okay. So then my last question for you on a Type 5 is, what's the hardest part of your parking job?
The hardest part, I've been parking a while, now it's working with municipalities, is getting into obviously there's a lot of RFPs. There's just a lot of work and a lot of things to put together, but trying to get these cities to maybe understand what they need before they get to RFPs. Not that we're trying to get around that, but show them what they need.
Yeah.
So I think as selling into municipalities is a new challenge for me that I haven't had to do a lot of.
Yeah, it's a big challenge.
Long sales cycles.
Long sales cycles.
Mhm.
You got to have lots of shot on goal. What's the analogy?
Let's see.
I always think about it. I always used to tell my reps, think about it like 737s at O'Hare. At night, you can see
They're lined up.
there's 10 of them stacked up. Okay. Now, some of them might actually have to peel off. They won't land. But if you get them all, just get them all in your rhythm, sales rhythm.
And also figuring out that not every RFP is for you.
Yeah.
Like you have to be good at filtering and saying, wait a second, this looks like it just doesn't fit because we're a smaller team. We only have so much time.
Yep. Yeah, you got to prioritize.
Yeah.
For sure. All right.
Awesome.
David, thank you. All right. This is going to be fun. All right. So let's start with your name and who you work for and what you do for that company and what that company does.
I'm Elliot Uhlenhaker, and I work for Parking Today Media.
Yeah.
I am manual labor for Parking Today, kind of just get anything that needs to get done.
Yeah.
And Parking Today Media it's a media company. So we spread the news.
You put on shows, you print magazines, you build other communications to help the parking community better communicate to their constituents, right?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
fair? All right.
Yes, sir.
I think you're probably the tech guy in Parking Today Media, aren't you?
A bit when I need to be.
Yeah. All right. So you've done this for a year now, right? Your dad has owned the company for a year.
Yes, sir.
And what'd you think when he came home and told you he bought a parking media company?
We were very surprised.
Yeah.
So when he left Flash,
Yep.
we didn't quite know what he wanted to do.
Yep.
So for a bit, he just stayed with the companies he already had.
Yep.
And then after that, we weren't expecting it. We heard that he was planning on it. He told us that
Sure.
this might be happening. And when it actually came through, there was some uncertainty.
Yep.
He has the experience with the parking and the people, but it's the media side. And it's like the magazine portion that he wasn't sure what to do.
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit of an adventure to see where things would go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your dad is a smart guy, and I'm sure he'll figure it out, right? And
Yes,
then
sir.
as you grow and you grow up and you have a career, I'm sure you'll follow in his footsteps and you'll figure it out too.
I'm not quite sure yet, but it's an option.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So what do you do when you're not general labor? What do you do for fun?
So I do scouts
Okay.
back at home, school, of course.
Sure. That's pretty funny. You do school for fun?
Oh, not for fun, but my life's not that interesting, really.
Okay. So tell me, how close are you to Eagle Scout? Because I bet you're going to be an Eagle Scout.
Yes, sir. So right now, my project has been approved by
Okay.
both the organization and scouts.
Okay.
Right now, I'm waiting for fundraising
Okay.
and money so I can buy my materials or get it donated so I can finally start building.
All right. And what's your project?
I'm going to be building a goggleball pit for a church near me.
What's a goggle pit?
So there's a game called goggleball, which is basically where you have a ball and a six-sided.
Like shape painted
Ring?
on the ground?
No, has walls.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So it's about 26 by 26.
Okay.
And the whole point is you don't want the ball to touch your feet.
Okay.
So you're hitting it towards other people's feet. You're like running around so it doesn't hit yours.
Yeah.
Fun ensues.
Yep. Okay. And you obviously have played this game and you like it.
Yes, sir.
And so you're going to build one, or are you going to build more than one?
I'm building one.
Okay. And what will the material be?
Wood.
Okay. And how much are you trying to raise?
So my estimate has been about I need $750.
Okay.
But if I can get that donated, and normally if you find the right businesses, they can be pretty generous.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've just been reaching out, trying to find the right business to get stuff donated.
Okay. All right. And so if any of our listeners want to donate to your cause, how would we donate to your cause?
Reach out to me, probably.
Okay. Through your dad, maybe?
Yeah, I have an email, phone number, so if they want to reach out directly, they can.
Okay. Well, why don't we'll take that down. We'll put it in the little show notes. And if we can help you, we'll help you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's great. All right. I hope you have a good show. I
You
hope
too.
you have fun. Good luck on your project.
Thank you.
That does sound a lot of fun. All right.
Good.
I will donate the first $100 to your project.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you tell me if you need Venmo, how you want the money. Just let me know.
Thank you.
So first, tell us your name, who you work for, and what your company does.
All right. My name's Emma. I work for Offstreet, Director of Marketing with them. We work with universities to digitize department guest and special event permits, specifically for campus tours, kids camps, media teams with athletics games, etc. Replacing hang tags, promo codes, apps, and just forward a really good solution that's a great guest experience.
And it's super easy to use.
Super
Right?
easy.
Yeah. And you guys have had some success lately. You're like on fire. Is that fair?
Yes. yeah.
Okay. I heard that you doubled the size of the employees.
Yes.
You went from 15 to 30 last year. That's usually a pretty good sign
Yes.
of all of your success. So congratulations for that.
Thanks.
All right. That's awesome. So the hook question for this little segment is, what's the hardest part of your job?
That's a really good question. I was talking about this last night, actually. I don't know if it's the hardest part of the job. I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's a really good challenge, interpreting people's problems and coming up with the right solution.
Okay. Give me an example.
Lots of time, customers will come to us with a solution that they think they need.
Yes.
And so being able to ask the right questions and really dig into what the problem actually is
Yeah.
to ensure that we're building a solution that can work for everybody and not just that one person.
Not just them.
Yeah, I would say as a team, like company-wide, we are all always trying to just be better question askers and listeners and
Yep.
really dig into things.
That's good.
Yeah.
So that you can build something that's flexible enough to be used in multiple different places. Okay. Do you have a favorite customer that you work with?
Yeah, we love all of our customers.
Of course you do.
Jody always talks about Karen and CampusParc, and yeah, we love all of the feature requests we get from them,
Yeah.
especially, but all of the customers have been really good at doing.
Yeah. CampusParc will make you better. But they happen to be one of my favorite customers too.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have
Perfect.
mutual favorite customers.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do when you're not parking cars or when you're not marketing to the parking community?
It's like in my free time.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have free time?
I try.
Okay.
I have a house, so we do a lot of house projects and renos. I
Yeah.
hang out with my golden retriever,
Yes.
who I'm obsessed with,
What is your golden retriever's name?
Nyla.
Nyla.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like over 100 pounds.
Oh my.
Yeah, so she's a big girl. We call her Big Mama, but she's really cuddly.
Maybe Nyla needs to walk a little more.
No, she has a thyroid problem.
Okay. Poor Nyla.
Yeah.
All right. So you walk your dog
Yeah.
and you do rental projects like
Yeah.
bathrooms and kitchens. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to eventually run out of bathrooms and kitchens. And then do you ever go outside and
I love to
run
outside.
or
I live at
bike?
the lake.
Okay. Yeah.
Our family has a boat. I
Okay.
like to do that. I read a lot.
Okay.
And I dabble in painting sometimes when I have the time.
Awesome.
And Bravo reality TV.
Bravo reality TV. Favorite show on Bravo reality TV?
Right now it's Summer House.
Okay. I'm not familiar.
You need to watch Summer House and listen to Call Her Daddy.
Okay. All right. I'll write those two things down. Okay. See, that's
Oh,
great.
easy.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
See, how much fun was that?
That was really fun.
Yeah. All right. Super easy. Tell me your name and who you work for and what do you do for that organization. Well, maybe what you do for the organization and what the organization does. Maybe it'll be self-explanatory when we get there.
My name is Sarah Choops, and I work for CampusParc. I'm on the business solutions team. I do project management, can morph into many things,
Yeah.
but overall it's all project management.
Yep. Yeah. So you are managing the projects that come out of Bob Murray's head. Is that fair to say?
Oh my gosh, that is the best way to say it. Yeah, sometimes I have my ideas as
Of
well.
course you do.
But Bob, yes, Bob has his grand vision for how everything should work,
Yeah.
how parking it should be in 25 years from now. And of course, we live in today.
Yeah.
And so I have to figure out how am I going to make this work? So from procurement to actually defining requirements
Yeah.
and doing the implementation and then supporting post-go live, figuring out how we're going to stitch together a variety of solutions to solve the problems.
Yep. Yeah. It's a tough problem to have. Now, this is not the first time you've worked for Bob Murray, is it?
No, it's not.
So he dragged you over to CampusParc. Is that right?
Yes. And I knew what I was getting into. So I went in eyes wide open.
Yep. I can absolutely understand why Bob wanted you to come work for him. Is obviously you're a critical thinker and you get a lot of stuff done. And you probably like working for Bob because Bob's not really telling you how to do your job. He's telling you, we got to go over that mountain and you got to figure out what kind of vehicle we need, which route we're going to take, if there are any pitfalls. And oh, by the way, once we get to the top of the mountain, we're probably not done because there's probably 5 more mountains behind it.
Oh, exactly. And at this point too, it's like, I know his direction. So I have a general idea of what he's going to be happy with or what he's going to be concerned about. And so I can keep all of those in mind as I'm evaluating and bring them to him when it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's a good working
I
relationship.
absolutely get it 100%. Okay. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I really love Pure Bar. Although now I have 2 kids and I used to do it like 5 times a week. So I was in there every day. Oh yes, they have challenges. And so
Pure Bar.
it's one of those class workouts and it's a Pilates ballet combination.
Okay.
So in my younger years, I play flag football, ultimate frisbee a little bit, and try to lift, but I always hurt myself. And so I got to the point early on, I was probably in my mid-20s, and I was like, I have to find something that is sustainable. And I fell in love with Pure Bar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you used to do it 5 days a week. Now you got two little kids, 4, 5?
3 and
Okay.
2. There'll be 2 next month. So
Okay.
one turned 3 last week, and the other one is turning 2 next month.
Okay, congratulations. 2 boys, right? Yeah, so you're chasing boys around. That'll keep you young.
Yep. I
That's
mean, so if we talk about free time, that's where the majority of my free time goes right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm finally coming out of the fog and the haze of
Yeah.
newborn life.
Yeah, and it just gets better every day, though, especially with, I had one of each. And so they were very fun, but the boys they're active.
Oh, they are. And they're getting to the point where they'll fight with each other and wrestle.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
cute.
That's great. Okay, thank you for coming over.
Oh.
This was easy.
It really was.
I love it.
And you didn't even ask me the harder question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What's the hardest part of your job?
Oh, no, I have to have an answer for that.
I'll answer it for you.
What?
Working with Bob. Even though that's the best part of your job, that's the hardest part. That's probably not the hardest part of your job.
No, I mean, I think we understand our problem set, and then we are limited in some ways to the solutions that are available in the market.
Yeah.
And so working
Good answer, actually.
with all the folks, that are here.
Yep.
And figuring out what's on your roadmap.
Yep.
How can I'm moving my hands in a certain way, but how can we stitch all of this together so that it works for us?
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a great answer, because that's exactly right, because you could build it yourself, but
And sometimes we do.
And that's long-term, that's not really very sustainable. That'd be a lot harder, a lot more expensive too.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. That's good. Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. That was fun. All right. So here's the shtick.
Okay.
Tell us your name.
Okay.
Tell us who you work for, and then what that organization does. And this will be really funny. You'll get to compare notes with Elliot, because I made him do the same thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Kevin Ullenhaker,
Yeah.
Parking Today Media, and we cover the North American parking industry.
Okay. He wasn't quite that concise, but he did a great job.
Did he?
Yeah. You'll be proud of him. You'll be
Okay.
happy. Okay. The next thing that we do is we try and dig in on what's the hardest part of your job.
Hardest part of my job.
Yeah.
For this first year, has been learning how to run a media company.
Yeah.
It's a thing that I've never done before.
Yep.
The closest I've come to I was on the school newspaper in 5th grade, which I'm not sure if that counts.
That
but
probably, well, I mean, okay, close.
it's what I have. But yeah,
Yeah.
that learning curve has been all the things that go into that.
Okay, so what have you learned in a year?
Oh my gosh. I've a better understanding of the idea of content and kind of the channels where content makes sense.
Yep.
The idea of audience, kind of audience building, and also silly things like the U.S. Postal System has a whole set of rules and guidelines about mailing out print magazines. And
Really?
they have deals and there's specials, and there are deals where they'll make it cheaper for you to mail your magazine if you feature certain things in your magazine, like certain topics.
Really?
If we wrote articles about AI, we could get a discount on the mailing of our magazine.
That's bizarre.
No idea.
Huh.
So yeah, so like that, and also in terms of the content of what percentage of ads versus non-ads and the way it's shipped. Like there's a whole, and printing, like we went to go visit a printing press. So the company that prints our magazines, 9 printing presses.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so for all these people saying the print is dead, they have 9 printing presses running 24 hours a day, putting stuff out.
Wow. Huh. All right. So learning the media business was hard.
Yep.
Tell me about putting on a show for the first time
Whew.
when the person that you took the show over from put great energy into the show, probably for 95% of the time, and then probably it waned a little bit. And I think if John were standing here, he would
Sure.
probably agree with that. That it wasn't putting the energy in that he did before.
Age takes a toll on all of us.
Yeah, I think that's real. And so my summation of the show is that you launched into something that probably needed some energy sooner. And now you saw, I think what you see here is people coming to support you personally. It's a bit like a startup, right?
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, you're asking people that know you, friends and family, to invest And then you're asking people close to you to try it, right? Because you can skin your knees, and we're here to support you as much as we are parking media today. Where are you going?
My first thing I would say is I feel so honored and blessed and grateful for folks and putting their trust in us.
Yeah.
And saying we're willing to come and see and let's try it out.
Yep.
To me, I feel so honored that they put that trust in us. Moving forward, having a full year of actually knowing what's expected, because this was our first one. We've never done it before.
Yeah.
So now that we've actually, that's where it is much like a startup, right?
Yeah.
Like that work up to having your first customer.
Yep.
And then once you have your first customer, then you're like, oh, okay. Fix that.
Yep.
For next year, it's going to be, we'll see. A lot of it's going to be the feedback we have from this year.
Yeah.
Pricing is a big thing that we're changing. As you probably saw, we're dramatically changing how we're doing our pricing and frankly, making it to a point where for standard attendees, if you're here at the show, you have the special deal where you can register for 2 nights and get the show for free.
Okay.
And then beyond the show, we'll have a code for all of our sponsors and exhibitors to be able to give out. Then for standard attendees makes their show free as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so unless you just don't know anyone, you should be able to get as a standard attendee.
Yeah.
For business, we've lowered the price as well. And we've also, on the booth side, set it up where it's a little bit more complicated. We've lowered the price. So really any small business can get in all the way up to as big of a space.
Yeah.
And so we've really worked to do more on the content side, more quality content, starting that sooner.
Yeah.
But to me, a lot of that from a price perspective, we're trying to get that, how do we get it in to bring the attendees and create that community and give price points for vendors of all sizes to be able to both exhibit and look, some people don't want to exhibit. Great. Do a sponsorship. We're trying to be that place where it's vendor friendly and kind of attendee friendly. And both sides of that.
That's good. I've had at least two people comment about the quality of the content of the show. So that's a piece of good feedback for you.
I appreciate that.
That your topics were timely and things that they were interested in. So I think that's probably something that's unique. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate you sharing that because that was our goal.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, you did it.
Well, thank you.
So far, so good. Okay. When you're not trying to figure out a media company, what do you do for fun?
That's a good question.
Oh, something doesn't immediately leap to mind.
No. You want to know why?
Yeah.
It is, if it's not business stuff, it's family stuff.
Yeah.
And family and church and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I love doing the business stuff. I am one of those people, it's not just a job. It really is something that I enjoy solving problems and figuring things out. How do we do this better? And frankly, it drives my wife crazy because we drive it along somewhere. I'll be like, oh gosh, she's really, and I was like, it's always there.
You got another idea?
I can't not.
Yeah.
So to me, that is the thing I enjoy doing. And so it's been very rewarding here at the show because I've been able to have my hands in a bunch of different things and try ideas. And frankly, the show's been a lot of new ideas. So back from my technology days, it was nice to be able to, you could have an idea, it gets built, it gets deployed, you get feedback, it gets better.
Yes.
I have a longer time span from show to show.
Yeah, you really do.
So this has been nice because it's been a little bit of, let's see how this works.
Right.
And so now we're getting some of that payoff of, okay, feedback good, feedback bad. All feedback is good feedback for me at this point because then it helps us input points and how to make it better and change.
Start, stop, and keep.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, as whatever you want to call it, it's that's, I enjoy doing that. And so that and the family stuff and traveling, but it's too enjoyable not to do it.
Cycling, walking, golf.
I don't play golf.
Tennis.
No, I'm not athletic.
Basketball.
I walk in the mornings. So at least I've started that up again. During that kind of core time, I did it, and then parking day happened, and then now I'm back into it.
Yeah, good. Good.
Like I say, I have fun on a daily basis. So thankfully I'm blessed enough not to have a job.
Yeah.
I have a great team that I enjoy doing stuff with. So it really isn't go do work and then go do fun stuff. It's the work I do for the most part is fun and I get to control more of that. That's one of the nice things about owning your own company. You have more control over
For sure. And so you are the personification of find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah. Ideally. Had you told me 2 years ago that would have been running a parking media company, I would have probably called you crazy.
I think if somebody had said, I think Kevin Uhlenhaker is going to by Parking Today Media, and be like, what? No.
You and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both.
That's
It's
great.
but I think life works that way. There's more
Yeah.
randomness in life than what we like to give it credit for, and I think it's the times
Yeah.
when we try and hold on too tight. Yeah,
Yes.
we got to let go and embrace more of that randomness.
We have a
So-
plan and God laughs. For sure.
Yes, or sends a whale,
Yeah. Or sends a whale. Indeed.
or large fish, depending on
Large
your
fish.
translation.
Yeah. Okay. Indeed. All right, Kevin, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm glad I got you in the hot seat, and I think there's nothing left to do but build on this and keep going.
And then next year in Dallas.
Let's go to Dallas.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, that'd be good. Dallas will be good.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. It's the first place you've been able to pick. This was the third year of a 3-year contract that was decided probably 5 years ago based on how far out these things are.
Yeah. Okay. Dallas 2026.
Yep, 26 and 27.
It's going to be a good year. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Very good. All right. First things first. Where is my Bud Light?
I don't know where my Bud Light is. Where is my Bud Light? I think I had a lot of Bud Lights yesterday. So
I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. First things first. Tell us your name, the company that you work for, and what that company does.
So my name's John Conway. I work at PRRS, Parking Revenue Recovery Services. We do insight analytics, compliance, occupancy, all kinds of things related to AI vision cameras.
And this is a company that you started?
I started, 24 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's a long time.
it is a long time. It started out as just a kind of a third-party debt collection. Founded it with a attorney friend of mine, and we found the parking industry as a niche for unpaid parking tickets.
Yeah.
And that's what we focused on, and that's really where PRRS started.
How did you find that niche?
Full disclosure, there was somebody else doing it at the time, a company called Ticketrack. Back in the day, private property really didn't have alternatives. If different markets couldn't tow, they couldn't boot. And so really there was no alternative for surface lots for people that didn't pay. And so people would leave these little yellow envelopes on cars that would wind up in the parking lot.
Yep.
And people found out really quick that nothing happened with those things. We found a little niche that, hey, write your little yellow envelope and then send us the info, and then we'll send out letters for people that didn't pay.
We will send Guido.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so then, given the fact that you're 24 years in, I know one of the things you talk a lot about is compliance. And one thing is payment, but you're also talking about compliance around being able to send letters and how you send letters. And there's a whole complexity in that.
Yep.
And it seems like you've got 24 years of experience doing it, which is one of the things that set you apart. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think today you see a lot of people looking over the fence, hanging up a camera and saying, I can do enforcement too. And we had a session today. Obviously, we're at PIE25. And we had a session today, Fred Breedemeyer and I, talking about some of the complexities that most people don't think about in the space. And so, example, probably about 10 years ago, you might have somebody that has 10 notices, or they've collected 5 or 6 notices. And so you send a letter and you have those 5 or 6 notices on one letter, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'd have so many notices that it would go on to page 2. And this is a true story, and you're laughing and you don't even know the end, but you will laugh. So we actually got sued under the FDCPA because, and the FDCPA is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act.
Okay.
And so you have to cater to the least sophisticated consumer, which is broad.
Yeah.
And I think whoever wrote that legislation did it for a reason.
Sure.
And so the letter was deemed a violation of the FDCPA because people were confused that it went on to a second page. And there was no total on the first page. The total was on the second page.
Oh, my.
And I often now will get people calling saying, why did you send 10 different letters? And that's why. That was about $80,000 for something that So that's a nuance.
Yeah.
It's a thing that most people don't understand, right down to our red sign, which has morphed over 20 years of different litigation. And so the language in that sign has become very important.
Oh, that's even more interesting.
Yeah. And yep,
You learn and you tweak.
That's
and you
right.
learn and you tweak.
we've actually had legislation about our lawsuits about our sign. And initially, the sign basically compels people to arbitration. So when you enter the lot, you enter into a contract that says, I'm not going to class action. I have to go through arbitration first. And so one of the rulings we got was the language in the sign, the arbitration language, was buried into the main language of the sign. So the judge ruled it's too confusing for people and you didn't highlight it. So now you can bet your bottom dollar in the sign that arbitration language
Is bold.
is a paragraph all by itself with space in between.
My goodness.
But going through that, just in another example, obviously we changed the signs, and now we have that legislation that didn't go our way to point to and say, this judge said we would have got arbitration had that been separated out. So now we've had 2 or 3 favorable rulings because of that. So it's a trial, and that's why Fred and I talked today about setting up an industry, not an association, but a group of people,
Like-minded people.
private property owners,
Yeah.
operators, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of legislation coming down now. It's not just associated with us, but it's the technology in the last 5 years has propelled immensely in the parking,
Yeah.
which is interesting because
Yeah.
if you've been in it as long as I have, we just took credit cards probably 10 or 11 years ago,
Yep.
right? Maybe longer, but we were like the last industry kicking and screaming. We still had meter boxes 15 years ago.
Stuff
the money,
in.
right?
Yeah.
But there's a time, and payment providers are facing the same thing. People scan a QR code. The sign on the lot says 20, but there's a $1.50 or $1 or even a 50-cent transaction fee.
Yeah.
And the AGs across the country are now focused on all of that. And so the idea of the group is to collaborate, be one voice, set a standard for each of so enforcement standards. So Isaiah Mao and Fred Breedemeyer and some people from Metropolis and Premium, we've spent the last 7 months developing best practices around compliance. Full disclosure, we used the British model and Americanized their document.
Okay.
And we're about ready to form a legal entity. And then we're going to launch that program. And that's when we'll make some big announcements about that. So
That's
it's
awesome.
better parking's been so siloed. Everybody's, and you got people off fighting different things on their own.
It's true. You got to band together.
Now it's banding together and collaborating.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah.
All right. So when you're not doing all of that, what do you do for fun?
we play pickleball, my
Yeah.
wife and I.
Okay.
I like to ski. And then we have grandkids. I have 3
Yeah.
grandkids that live next door, and
Oh,
that
wow.
consumes
Next door.
Yeah, right next door.
I'll bet that's fantastic.
Oh, it's awesome. I call it, hopefully I can say this, but I call it swoop and poop. So we get to go in, sugar them up, spoil them, and then the house starts getting out of control. And then we're like, bye, we're going next door. But that consumes a lot of our time. I mean, they're in sports, soccer, baseball.
Yeah. And you're
That's-
super fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
I, too, will be a super fan someday.
Oh,
I look forward to being a super fan.
Absolutely. So
That's great. All right. Thank you for stopping by.
absolutely.
And we're going to have to do this formally again.
Yeah.
We'll give you a year or so. Because
Yeah.
I heard stories today that I didn't even hear on the podcast. So that's fantastic. Okay, good. All right. So tell me your name, who you work for, and what that business does. So I think it'll be pretty self-explanatory for you.
Sure. Makes sense. So my name is Nick Nicholas. You can't mess it up. Nicholas.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you'll never forget me.
that's
And
true.
I'm a captain with the Seal Beach Police Department.
Okay.
So we're a little city in Orange County, California. And part of my responsibilities as a captain is overseeing the city's parking management program.
Okay. And so you're a cop, though.
I am.
All right. So
Yes.
then you're chasing speeders and giving out speeding tickets and all of that other stuff in addition to parking. Is there?
It's been a long time since that has happened, and something would have to go catastrophically wrong for me to be back out in the field again.
Okay.
I do a lot of paperwork and administration and not a whole lot of police work anymore.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been a police officer for 15 years.
Okay.
And when I promoted to captain about 2.5 years ago, the chief said, Nick, congratulations. You're now in charge of a bunch of stuff that's pretty boring and that I didn't go to the academy to handle.
Yep.
And animal control is one of them. Don't know anything about animal control. And then also parking. So surprise, here I am.
Yeah. Okay. And when you heard that you had to take care of parking, you're like, oh, that'd be easy. Like, how hard could it be?
I was overwhelmed, truthfully. And I
Yeah.
thought back to my time in patrol. I probably wrote, 12 parking tickets in my whole career.
Yeah.
And now here I am overseeing the entire city's parking management. It was a rude awakening for me, for sure.
So how big is Seal Beach?
We have 25,000 residents,
Okay.
but we're definitely a tourist destination. So in the summertime, our population roughly doubles. And it's a lot of people coming down to the beach to enjoy our pier and downtown
Yeah.
area, and a lot of people looking for a very limited number of parking spots.
Yeah. So there's contention. Okay. So then the hook for the ditty is
Sure.
what's the hardest part of your job? You got a lot of hard jobs, but what's the hardest part?
Truthfully, there's two things.
Okay.
One is obviously interacting with elected officials and government agencies in California.
I've
We
heard
have
that
to deal,
before.
right, of course. We have to deal with the Coastal Commission, and it's just another layer of bureaucracy that we have to deal with. They definitely serve a purpose, but
Yeah.
it makes things a little bit more difficult for me. And then the other thing that I've discovered in my parking journey is we as an industry, not we as the Seal Beach Police Department, but we as an industry are doing a really poor job of ensuring our frontline personnel are safe.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
alarming. It's
Yeah.
alarming because now I've gone all over to shows across the country, and I talk to parking managers and I talk to frontline enforcement personnel, and I am shocked to hear that there's really no standards of training for our frontline personnel. Now, for me, coming from a policing background, we go through the academy, we're taught de-escalation and situational awareness
Yeah.
and basic officer safety techniques, but nobody is having those conversations in the parking industry, especially with our frontline personnel.
Yeah. You just throw them out there and
That's
good
right.
luck.
That's right, exactly.
And so I had Cindy Campbell on my
She's great.
podcast. This is probably a month or so ago.
Okay, I love her.
And she was talking about that exact thing, that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Where trying to help frontline individuals just not engage,
That's
like
right.
to de-escalate and just back up. I'm sorry, we can't have this conversation if you're going to continue to engage me that
Right,
way.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think, I love our frontline personnel, but often they're younger, especially on a campus or in a police department. It might be their first job. They're just trying to get their foot in somewhere. They don't have the same life experience
Yep.
that people would think, really, based on their responsibilities. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it's just a ticket. It's just a $68 ticket, and nobody should have to put their own safety or emotional well-being on the line for a parking ticket.
Yeah, that is crazy. All right, so when you're not managing parking or other things at the
Sure.
Seal Beach Police Department, what do you do for fun?
Love music, huge
Okay.
music guy,
All right.
and absolutely love Chicago because the blues scene
Yeah.
here is incredible. Definitely try to see as much live music
You
as
got
I can.
a favorite venue in California?
Oh my God, there's so many good venues in
Are
California.
they close to you?
Not too far. LA's not too far, but I
Yeah.
prefer the hole-in-the-wall venues,
Yeah, for sure.
the small venues where
Yeah.
you can get up close and personal with the artists.
Yeah.
I really love that.
Any good stories? People
Oh.
that like famous people that played the holes in the walls?
Oh, sure. I've seen Green Day, one of my favorite
Oh,
bands,
yeah.
in a bunch of small venues and a
Yep.
bunch of really cool blues artists who have passed away in intimate venues. So it's really fun.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm blanking on the name. It'll probably come to me, so I'm stalling. I believe I was in California, and it was
Okay.
this super tiny venue. Josie's on a vacation far away. Do
Okay.
you know who that is?
I know the song.
I'm not sure if that's the band. Anyway, it was big in the 80s and 90s or whatever. But I
Okay.
guess my point, I flash back. I've ruined the story. I've butchered the story. But I flash back to, I'm like, what is that band doing in this venue?
Sure.
And then all they're doing is just rocking
Sure,
it out,
sure.
right?
Love that.
Yeah,
Love
that's
it.
good. All right, Nick Nicholas. I won't
That's right.
forget your name. Can I call you Nick Squared?
Of
You probably
course.
never get called that.
Of course.
So why did your parents name you Nick Nicholas? Is there a story there?
Long story. Might be a beer, and I'll tell you the story.
Okay, I'll buy you a beer. That's great.
Sounds good.
All right, Nick. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate
That's
it.
great. All right, so tell us your name, who you work for, what do you do for that company?
Raf Abanilla. I work for Parking Concepts Inc. We're based in Irvine, California. I'm the Senior Vice President for Operations and Innovation. So I get to park the cars and also have a little bit of fun.
Okay, so you're the guy that put Breeze together. Is that right? Is that
I
part of the
definitely
innovation
helped
team?
come up with the Breeze platform.
Okay. I love the concept, obviously. And PCI is a customer of ours, so it was tucked right into the Breeze. Tell me the kernel of the idea to brand it, and then how you chose the technologies, or how you choose the technologies.
So PCI's been around for about 50 years.
Yeah.
We celebrated our 50th year. And when I joined about 4 years ago with COVID, everything got accelerated as far as tech.
Yeah.
I said, wait, let's try to figure this out. And so part of my mandate is to figure out the technology stack of PCI. And we've always been, and we're still maintaining our agnostic stance when it comes to technology. We believe that there's no one size fits all as far as the tech.
That's absolutely true.
And as an operator, our responsibility to our client is to figure out the partnership and what's best out in the market.
Yep.
And what's best for the use case. Part of it, though, is there was a need for consistency as far as the deployment of the technology.
Yeah.
And I think that's really part of the core value of what the mission is as far as Breeze is, hey, there needs to be consistency on the deployment and the utilization of technology. And so that started it. And then eventually we've been able to establish an ecosystem of platforms and white label platforms. It's just easier to talk about technology under one umbrella.
Yep.
To our external clients, but also our internal folks.
Yeah.
And it's just an easier conversation. And then we're able to consolidate the data at the end of the day and the reporting, package that. And that really, truly makes it easier for our clients.
That's great. I love the idea. It makes perfect sense. Build some consistency in the delivery model. But I also totally agree. You've seen one garage, you've seen one garage. Mm-hmm. Everyone is different. The configurations, the traffic, all of that. And you really do have to be a puzzle builder in order to make it work.
Yes. Tailoring the technology that fits the use cases is really critical.
Yep.
And I think we've done a really good job making sure that, like I said, not one size fits all.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So given all of that, what's the hardest part of your job?
So talk about technology and deploying it. I think for me, the biggest challenge is finding the balance of elevating that user experience, but also maintaining the customer service aspect of it, the human touch, I call it.
Yeah.
It's really, for us, it's AI plus human touch.
Yeah.
And I think we want to enhance the user experience, but not replace it with technology. Technology is something that we are going to leverage and maximize our efficiency. But we as a company, our core value, part of our core value is customer service, and that's what our focus is.
Yep.
And I think that's the challenge sometimes is I get too excited about deploying technology and I have to remind myself, where's the customer service?
Yeah. And the human aspect of it, because there's failure. Right?
Absolutely.
And just because you know how to use the technology doesn't mean that they know how to use the technology.
100%.
That's the hard part. The hard part is these folks, we all get stupid when you get in front of a machine, in front of a gate. And you're like, panic, what do I do? Yeah. It happens all the time. Okay. All right. That's a good answer to that question for sure. So what do you do when you're not parking cars? What do you do for fun?
During COVID, we got stuck at home like a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, we got to do something. We got to figure this out. Our 2 boys were homeschooled a couple years, and my wife was working remotely. And I said, "Are you okay going camping? Can we explore maybe a little bit of the national parks?" And she was willing to do it. So we got ourselves a small trailer. We pulled it with our SUV, and for about 8 months during the COVID period, we were out just camping out in Utah, New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And it was the best time as far as the quality time with the kids.
Yeah.
And we were able to continue that after the pandemic.
Where's your favorite spot?
Oh, for me, it's still Zion
Yeah.
National Park. I love it out there.
Yeah.
I typically go once, twice a year now. And this year my wife lined up a few national parks, and I'm looking forward to that.
Jill and I, my wife and I, we were in St. George for a wedding. This is now this is 15 months ago. And so we jaunted up to Zion. It's the first national park I've ever been to. I guess it's aside from the Grand Canyon. I think I've been to the Grand Canyon, which is pretty awesome. But Zion was
just majestic.
It was crazy.
Yeah. And if the weather's perfect.
It was perfect.
You drive through the tunnel. Yeah, I love it up there.
I get it. I get it 100%. All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for your support of us. You and Dave and Gil. I had spent some time with Gil, he's an amazing human being. You guys are all amazing human beings, and it's amazing how it starts at the top and it really does run down.
The culture is very important to us, and that comes from Gil and Dave.
Yeah. What's amazing is, and my kids, I've trained my kids now to actually say this. So we'll go into a place and we'll get bad service and we'll be like, okay, show me the manager. Show me the leader of that organization. I guarantee you that leader doesn't give a crap about those people, and they don't give a crap about us. And if you, conversely, of course, if you go in and you get great service, I said, I guarantee you show me a leader, and that's somebody that's busting their butt to make sure that their people have what they need and they deliver a great customer experience. It happens every time.
Yeah.
Leadership matters for sure.
100%.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks again.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Welcome. All right, so here, very straightforward. Give us your name, who you work for, what that business does, and then we'll talk about a couple of other things.
Sounds good. Hello, my name is Fonda Moyers, and I'm with BirdX. We're a Chicago-based company. Been in business since 1961.
Wow.
We're 61 years in there. And we specialize in helping parking garages rid their properties of birds.
Okay. Now, of course, I could guess that there's a business like that. So what are the best ways to get rid of birds off of parking facilities?
The answer to that isn't quite as simple as it's harder than it looks.
I knew that was coming.
So what we do is we're a manufacturer and we sell a variety of solutions.
Okay.
And we sell them to everybody from food manufacturers to airports to parking garages. And each situation is different. So there's more than one species of bird.
Yeah.
And swallows will behave differently than pigeons. And it also depends how long they've been there. Do they have nests? Or are they just landing there during the day and maybe going somewhere else at night?
Yep.
Of course, they love food sources and they love nice, toasty, warm homes. So if you have anything equipment-wise or pipes that generate heat, they're going to look at that as a very nice home. So we have what's called bird wire, which is a post, and then it gets strapped with a wire, and there's springs on that. And what happens is the birds land on it, and it gives, and they're like, oh, I don't like that. That movement scares them away.
Yeah.
We have bird spikes, which everybody either knows about, has seen, and a lot of times you've seen pictures of bird spikes with nests in them.
Yeah.
And bird spikes are a great preventative situation, but once the birds have already found that area is a nice home, they look at that space as a nice place to build a nest. Spikes are not the answer for everything. We have electrified track called shock track.
Oh.
Now, that's obviously not something that you're going to want to put where people can touch.
Sure.
But if you have ledges, it's an ideal space to put it up there. It It's very humane. It gives them a little electrical energy. Think of it as an electric fence for birds.
Yeah.
And it just sends through a cycle every so often, a burst of voltage, not a lot of current, but voltage. And voltage is enough to give you that instantaneous shock. And they go, oh, okay, that's not a good place to land either. Everything that we do is considered humane. So there's no poisons or chemicals or rodenticides. A lot of people don't realize that, but birds carry up to 60 diseases. Everyone's familiar with
bird flu.
Gene Hackman passing recently and his wife having hantavirus.
Oh.
That's one that birds will spread. And of course,
Okay.
we're having an avian flu
Yeah.
problem throughout the country.
For sure.
So birds, even if you're not touching them, if they're leaving their droppings and you're walking through it, you're bringing that into your space. And so it's a matter of health.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. How big is your company?
We are privately held.
Okay.
We have about 60 employees,
Wow.
and we do business globally. We do business nationally mostly,
Yeah.
but we also have lots of customers in Latin America and in Europe and
Okay.
Australia.
That's fantastic. How long have you been with the company?
Just celebrated a year.
Okay. All right. That's great. Of course, I could imagine that there's a business that gets rid of birds. So what do you do when you're for fun, when you're not chasing birds?
I'm an avid motorcyclist.
Okay. Is that right? What kind of bike do you have?
I have a Honda Goldwing F6B, which
Yeah.
is 1832 cc's, 6-cylinder. It's a big bike.
Yeah. And what's the furthest you've ridden bike?
I would say Nashville, Tennessee,
Okay.
from Chicago.
That was probably a great ride, actually.
It was a wonderful ride.
Yeah.
Went through Indiana, Kentucky,
Yeah.
over to Tennessee.
Once
Beautiful
you got
country.
down, southern Indiana and across
yeah.
Kentucky, there was
I do an annual
winding.
trip down to the Ozarks every fall and
Nice.
ride those beautiful roads.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I had a Honda
Okay.
a long time ago. It was just a V45 Magna.
Okay.
And one of the most relaxing things that
Yes.
you can do,
Yes.
even though we got rid of the bike. My wife even loved to ride, but we got rid of the bike when we had our first child because we
Okay.
were like,
Yeah, that happens.
it's, you do realize you're going down the road at 60, there's very little to protect you at
Very
that
little.
point.
Yep.
And you got to pay attention.
Yep.
'Cause it's really not you that's going to get you in trouble. It's
Absolutely
people
true.
pulling out in front of you.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for bringing props. This is very helpful. I got to know the bird chasing business.
There you go.
That's great. Good luck.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. You're reversing the tide on me, or
I am a man who needs no introduction, who is also the host of our podcast. Can you please tell us your name
Yeah.
and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Brian Wolff. I am the chief cook and bottle washer at Parker Technology. I embrace all of those roles fondly.
And we appreciate you, Brian, and being the host of this podcast. We could talk all day about how it's more difficult than what people would expect to just start a podcast
It is.
and keep it going for 32 episodes now, be during the day and also during nights, because I know you work very hard
Yeah.
with Parker Technology. Can you tell me a bit about what is the hardest part about being the CEO of Parker?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you're asking me about the CEO's job. Let me give you one answer about what's hard about our jobs. First of all, I should give a plug to our awesome producer. So the producer of this podcast is the best.
Oh.
And so Courtney's one of the reasons we've had so much success. So the thing that's hard for me with Parker and for us is it's very frustrating, but gratifying when you finally convince a customer to try our solution. And then once they've tried the solution, they were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I didn't do this 3 years ago. It is that life-changing for them because they don't realize how often that phone rings or how often they're interrupted with a help call. And once those help calls stop, they are so much more productive. And because of the way we do things, they can forget about that piece of it and just worry about things that are happening on site. So that for me is really gratifying to talk to someone who's a new customer and they're like, it's been life-changing.
Oh, yeah.
Please tell everyone.
And I hear on the case study side from our customers, a lot of horror stories of there's one cell phone that happens to be a flip phone that they all share for the night shifts and day shifts. And sometimes that phone gets taken home and sometimes that phone gets passed around, or sometimes you get a call at 2 a.m. and it's not the call you want.
Yeah.
But in terms of catchphrases, we talk about catchphrases a lot on this show.
We do.
And I know that for you, it's the conversion between painkillers versus a vitamin.
Yeah.
And that
for
we're not a
sure.
vitamin,
Yes.
we're a painkiller.
Yep. And they don't realize we're a painkiller until they try it. So that's
Mhm.
good. Thanks for reminding me. And then the hardest job that I have as a CEO, I think I spend a lot of time worrying about getting alignment for the leaders so that the leaders can also then get alignment with their crew, and just making sure it's harder than it looks to get everybody on the same page. We have an awesome team. I think I take my team for granted. We have people that are hard chargers. We have people that want to do a great job. We have people that they exhibit extreme ownership of their functions. But as we get bigger and as we begin to scale, the interdependencies of the departments is becoming even more critical. We've got to be able to work together. And as good as it is, I think it can be better, or at least my coach keeps telling me that it could be better. And so I think those are the things that consume me as much as anything, just for me to be a better leader and for me to help people operate together independently so that their groups can also operate independently, but together.
So then you said you're going through coaching right now?
I'm being coached.
On how to be a better leader.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so from your coach, have you received any feedback from them yet that you've implemented?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What would you say the number one thing is so far that you've changed?
Yeah, what a great question. So the biggest thing is that I tend to be very reactive, particularly when it's something that I don't want to hear. And so it's oxymoronic. I would like to create an environment where bad news can come to me, because the only way we can fix something is if we know something is not going well. But I tend to be very reactive. You tend to not be able to, I don't disguise how I feel about things very well. And so one of the things that I'm really working on very hard is to be neutral when and it's not even bad news, but being neutral to allow the person who's delivering the news, good or bad, to just get it out there, because you can't fix something that you don't know is broken. And nobody wants to deliver bad news when I'm going to act badly about receiving that bad news. And so being neutral and absorbing and listening and just being aware of how I'm reacting to things it's been helpful.
And I know if we're following Enneagrams, I know you're a 3. I'm a 3 too.
Yes.
So that's also something that I tend to struggle with, especially in the workplace, because for me, if there's a problem, I want to fix it immediately. I like there to be calm, smoothness, and I like us all to be on the same page.
Yeah.
So I know it's difficult when things happen to be able to take a step back and process it in the moment and be there for your leaders, but that's very interesting.
The other thing, so I'm glad you talked about the Enneagram, because the other thing for both of us to keep in mind is negative feedback does not equate to failure. Okay? We are so hardwired so quickly to internalize what we hear as a threat to success that it doesn't have anything to do with our success or failure. It just is. They say that my job really today as a CEO is to discover reality and deal with it. And so again, back to just reactions and being able to not view it as failure, view it as a thing, as reality, to be able to just deal with it and not internalize the failure of it.
Absolutely. Failure is something that's inevitable.
Yeah.
And failures only get you closer to your successes. I forget what the phrase is, but you can go through 1,000 failures, but that's still more than somebody who hasn't tried. And you're that much closer to learning and having your successes.
Yeah, that's good.
And so then, okay, so my last question for you, and I know a few of these things, but I'm curious, what do you do in your free time when you have free time?
What a loaded question. I play golf, and I love to play golf.
Yes.
And if I'm not at home or at work, There is a better than even chance that I am on the golf course.
At Meridian Hills.
At Meridian Hills, yep. I'm fortunate to belong to a golf club that is one of the best golf clubs, certainly in the city of Indianapolis, maybe even in the state. And it's 3 minutes from my house.
That's perfect. Then you
It
are
is.
right there.
It's so close.
3 minutes away from bliss, unless you're having a bad golf day. But I'm
There's no such thing as a bad golf day. And then the icing on the cake or the cherry on top for me is that my son likes to play golf as well. And so we play a lot of golf together, and he is a blessing. He can hit the ball a long way, and we have a lot of fun on the golf course together. So it's great.
I will say, so I play golf too. Maybe not as much as you do. Maybe
A
5%,
smidge
a
less?
smidge less.
Yeah.
But for my dad, he got me into golf as well. And there is nothing more in the world. He gets the biggest smile every time I see him every Sunday.
Yeah.
But I say, let's go hit golf balls today. And he just lights up.
Yeah.
So I can understand how special that is.
It is super special. So thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate the question.
Of course. And thank you for chatting with me and allowing me to turn the podcast on its head for a few minutes.
It was
We
great.
appreciate you.
I enjoyed that. Thank you for that. And let's keep going.
Of course. We're never going to stop. That is another Brianism. Let's keep going. And we plan on that.
Let's keep going for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
So I think it's going to be good.
Okay.
So the first, maybe the easiest question we're going to ask is your name, who do you work for, and what do you do for that company, and what does the company do?
So my name's Amanda Zimmer, and I am the Director of Marketing for IPS Group.
Okay.
IPS Group has been in the business now for 25 years. Started off as being the first company to create smart parking meters. So the cashless experience, being able to just tap your card. And from there on, it's just, they've been in the forefront for technological advancements in parking. So now we have 6 different lines of services that we offer our customers.
Okay.
So basically anything you can think of related to parking, we're doing.
That's interesting. So is there a consulting arm then? Is that one of the things that they do? Or what are the 6 lines?
Yeah.
I know
I'm just
I
like,
am
yeah,
really
it's 6 lines.
testing
So
you.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
So we have our enforcement,
Okay.
permitting,
Yep.
our software where you can see all of the revenue. We integrate with third parties so you
Okay.
can see everything in one place.
Yep.
We have our Park Smarter app, so for online mobile
Oh, yeah.
payments.
Good.
Text to pay. And then we have sensors for our hardware. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
do a lot of hardware too.
Nice. I know that we're talking to IPS about doing an integration because we believe that there are just as many calls on the street for help. People are confused. They don't know how to pay. Their credit card isn't working or what have you. We think we can help with that. So it'll be a good collaboration between our 2 companies. Now, you said that you've only been in parking for 2 months.
Yes.
What did you do before that?
I was in biotech.
Okay.
So I was in biotech for 7 years.
Marketing and biotech?
Yes.
Okay. What company?
So I worked initially for a company called Cardea,
Okay.
which make graphene biosensors.
Graphene biosensors.
Yes.
Okay.
So graphene is the only material that's not conducive because every single material in the world pretty much has an electric charge.
Okay.
So what that means is that when you are interacting with science, it affects it. You can't get a pure reading.
A reading. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
so that's why graphene was such a huge
Okay.
thing.
And is it injected?
No. So graphene biosensors are used to, you can combine it with different things. So they were combining it with CRISPR technology,
Yeah.
which you might have heard on. Or heard about.
Is that splicing DNA or
It
RNA?
can do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So CRISPR can scan DNA.
Okay.
And some of the more sci-fi things that you would see
Yeah.
is that they will try to add their own, like another piece of DNA into
Oh,
it.
yeah. Like
So,
designer babies.
Yes,
kinds of
designer
stuff. Yeah.
babies,
Yeah.
changing eye colors.
Yeah.
Someone tried to get wings grown out of him from, it's not possible.
Yeah.
At least how we are today, it's not possible to grow out wings from changing DNA.
Yeah.
But they were using it as a DNA search engine.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, that was really cool.
All right. So how does someone get from biotech to parking?
Accidental.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, let's hear the
it's
story.
funny because I feel like walking around, I haven't heard anyone that said that parking has been their calling.
Yeah, no.
It's all just been a coincidence
Happens
or
just like that.
yeah. For me, it was the recruiter reached out
Okay.
and I thought that it's good to do interviews every once in a while and keep it fresh and
Sure.
remember kind of like your pitch.
Yeah.
And I have this call and she talks about the role and what it would entail. And during the call, I just completely changed my mind. Just wait, this is a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
I think this just sounds really promising.
Yeah.
Interviewed with Mike Chiodo and Andrew Lamoth and instantly hit it off with them. And I had my final interview and we were just laughing at the end of it and brainstorming different ideas.
Yep.
And just please let me get this job. This sounds really fun.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There is no question people do not wake up or at 12 years old, they're not saying I'm going to be a parking professional. But I think what you're going to find out is parking is like the Hotel California. Once you check in, you never leave because the information that you know now or that you're learning is specialized information and you'll get to know everybody and you'll build relationships. And so if IPS doesn't scratch the itch anymore, there are probably hundreds of other companies that would in parking because once you're here, you can't get out.
Yeah, it's really funny hearing that because that's been the theme. And I've talked to people that have worked together at some point at some company and then they go somewhere else and then they work together again. And it's a really friendly industry.
Yes, it is.
Everyone's been very warm and welcoming. So
that's great. And so what do you do when you're not parking cars or helping people park cars? What do you do for fun?
I like to surf. It's been a minute now because I got stung by a stingray
Did you
in
really?
last fall. Yes,
Oh boy.
It was brutal. But now I'm getting the itch again, so I'll go back out in the water.
Okay, so you must live close to water.
Yes, I live in San Diego.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. It's tough.
Yeah,
to,
everyone says so.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was, how easy was that? Tell me your name, who you work for, and then what that company does.
My name is Garrett Hofeld. I work for a company called Risetek Global, and we are a smart parking integrator. So
Okay.
we create custom solutions integrating all sorts of different platforms into the end result. We have some proprietary software as well that we utilize in that endeavor.
Yeah, so my impression of Risetek Global is that you bring together all of the disparate parts to give a parking operator a single view of everything that's going on across all of their parking facilities. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. Yes,
Okay.
we are able to visualize all of the platforms in one source reporting, if you will, one source visualization in real time from occupancy to LPR to enforcement to revenue. And it gives, as you just said, it gives an operator, a municipality, college, university, one access to see all of their data immediately.
Yeah, that's great. I'll bet it's hard to do.
We're trying to perfect it as best we can.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And so what's your role at Risetek?
I happen to be the vice president of sales.
Okay. All right. Well, you got the hard job. That's probably unfair. I'm sorry. It is a hard job to get people to sign on the line that is dotted.
Absolutely.
And then you're also responsible for creating the blanket of revenue that everyone sleeps under, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. I think it goes though with I haven't been in the parking industry all that long.
Okay.
So it's about building the relationships, the trust and things of that nature.
For sure.
And being authentic about
about
what it is we do.
So how long have you been in the parking industry?
I've been in the parking industry for 4 years.
4 years. Okay. How did you get here? Because
like many others in the parking industry, Jack Skelton recruited myself, and having been here in the industry, I hear that regularly that Jack was the reason that they came to parking.
Yep.
And they're still here.
Yep, for sure. Now that you're here, it's going to be really hard for you to get out of parking. It is, people stay. As we shared the last time, we talk a lot on the podcast about coaching trees or parking coaching trees. And I would imagine Jack's got a large tree with lots of branches on it for sure.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's good.
I would agree.
Okay. And so when you're not working on global dashboards for customers or trying to sell them a global dashboard or a global integration, what do you do for fun?
We spend a lot of time with the family at the lake home.
Okay.
I like to golf.
Yeah, me too.
With a variety of people, as we spoke.
Yeah.
And then I still play hockey at 51. Transitioned to being goalie maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, so I could play with some of the buddies that
younger or older?
There are my age.
Okay.
They just started into the game of hockey about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Okay.
For the love of the game.
Yeah.
So they're not beginners, but they're they're honing their skills
They're honing
at
their
a late
skills.
age.
How long have you been playing hockey?
Since I've been 5.
Okay. So you grew up on skates.
I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then it's been my experience that hockey players are pretty good golfers because of the eye-hand coordination. So
I have my moments.
yeah,
But as we've talked, my son, who's 22 years old,
yeah.
is phenomenal, as I've heard your son is as well.
Yeah, he can hit the ball a country mile, and when he's having a good day, it's going straight.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of fun to watch him hit it.
I was just going to say the same thing. It is a lot. It's rewarding to see them be successful in whatever endeavors they're doing, but to be able to be a part of that, sitting next to them in the golf cart, watching, and watching their meltdowns from time to time.
You watch them work through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Golf is a game of managing bad shots.
And sometimes, quite frankly, if you need a few dits because you're in a competition with him, you might be the cause of the malfunction because you get in their ear a little bit too much.
Yeah. My son has become numb to me getting in his ear.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of fun. It usually carries over to the dinner table.
Oh, yeah.
And Jill, my wife, is, okay, you just need to cool it. And I'm like, we're just having fun.
The banter back and forth is what makes it fun.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Oh, that's great. All right. Thank you for joining me twice. I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely.
And welcome to parking.
Thank you, sir.
It's
Appreciate the
been great
opportunity.
to talk to you.
Sounds good.
So, can you please tell me your name and who you work for?
Absolutely. My name is Serena Pollack. I'm a director of Interstate Parking, which is based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So, Serena, you said that this is your first PIE conference.
Yeah.
So, what have you thought so far about the show itself?
I just got here today. I'm driving up for the day to attend. I think it's been very informational. I'm looking forward to more of the networking, being relatively new to the industry.
So then how long have you been in the industry for?
Since November.
Since November. So that's just a few months. And then what sort of industries have you worked in before parking?
I'm a lawyer by education, though I gave up the practice several years ago. So I've worked in different organizations where I come in and I structure and I build teams and how to format them. So this job was really interesting. They reached out to me, and this company is rapidly growing. We're throughout the U.S., constantly growing operations. So the ability to create standard operating procedures and how a company runs as we grow was really exciting.
And it's important too, because if you grow a company without putting those things into place, it makes growth down the line a lot harder, a lot more difficult.
Absolutely. It's not sustainable growth.
No. So then on that subject, then what would you say the hardest part about your role is currently, or what the hardest thing that you're going through that your company may face?
We're growing so quickly, and it's all organic growth, which is really exciting to be a part of, but to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And systematically and stay organized and not get ahead of ourselves is really difficult. Most people, unfortunately, you say, what industry are you in? And they say parking, and they're the parking industry. I'm like, but there's so many different facets of it. Most people they think of a parking spot. They don't think of everything that goes into that. They don't think of labor costs. They don't think of insurance. They don't think of compliance. They don't think of operations. And it's a lot more exciting than it might seem.
Yes. And I think especially when I tell people about it, I'm like, don't worry, I'm not evil parking, as if there is evil parking, but there's not. People don't consider that without parking rules and like fees, that people would just park in garages and they'd be completely full all the time, and then you wouldn't have anywhere to park. There's a reason that things are the way they are.
Not only that, but I have a new appreciation for people who are just like, oh, I was just there for 5 minutes. It's clearly posted. If you're here for 5 minutes or more, it's actually 15.
Yes.
That you're going to be charged, and people think that they get something for free. It gives the industry a bad name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And then so when you're not helping parking cars, what do you do for fun?
I golf.
You golf?
I golf.
I love to golf. How long have you been golfing for?
My entire life.
So then what got you into golf?
Played with my grandfather.
And then, so how often do you get to play?
In the summer, 4 times a week.
I was about to say in Milwaukee, you can't really, do you have top golfs or things like that?
We have top golfs, and my club has simulators, and I get a little bit in the winter, but it's not quite the same.
What type of clubs do you have?
It's interesting you should ask. I just got some new clubs. I have a mixed bag. I was playing a full bag of ping, but I just got a Serixon driver and a Serixon 5-wood, and I just got a lab putter. which is Lie Action Balance. It's a company out of Washington that just started a few years ago.
Ooh.
They look a little strange, but they're very stable and steady. So I'm
Nice.
excited to start putting with that.
That's interesting because I feel like when people make the upgrade, they go to Ping, and then you have made a new upgrade. So that's curious. I haven't heard of that brand before, but obviously if they're newer,
It's
then
brand new. Srixon is a Japanese brand. Cleveland, you might have heard of. They do all Cleveland wedges and things like that. But yeah, I'm very short. I'm 5'4", but yet my swing speed is not a women's swing speed, so I have
what's
to
your
get
swing
fitted.
speed?
I am actually, every time you cut a shaft, it gets more stiff. So I actually have to go with a men's senior shaft, and that's even cut for my length, so it becomes men's flex or regular men's flex.
Really interesting. That's really fun. So then let me see if I have any more questions. I wish Brian were here in the seat because he golfs probably 50 times more than I do. I've golfed with my dad. He got me into golfing and
Awesome.
on that level. But do you ever travel to golf too?
I do.
What's your favorite course?
Royal Portsmouth in Northern Ireland.
In Ireland?
Yeah.
How often do you get to go out there?
Not very often. It's a treat.
It is
every few
I'm
years.
sure. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
we
having me.
appreciate it. So can you please tell us your name and where you're from?
Yeah, Heidi Barber, and I am from Indianapolis.
Awesome. And who are you with here at PIE25?
Parker Technology.
And I knew that, but for people listening at home, very excited to talk to Heidi today. And so what we're doing is we're going to be asking people some hard-hitting questions similar to the lightning round on our podcast. So Heidi, can you tell me the hardest thing about your parking job?
Oh, wow. Okay, I would say the hardest thing about my parking job or marketing job for a parking vendor is showing our value in terms of revenue and being able to tie what we're doing in the different marketing channels and campaigns and how that ties back to revenue for our company and just tracking that. It's a mix. It's never really just one thing that brings a new customer to us, but being able to determine based on what that mix is, where to pour more energy, money, focus into based on what's working and what's not.
Exactly. And I know for a lot of marketers, that's a big struggle and it's a constant battle of attribution. So when you first started at Parker Technology, what did that attribution model look like? What did our CRM look like?
It was non-existent.
Yeah.
So I actually joke when I started at Parker, I inherited our CRM. So we had just implemented Salesforce, but nobody was using it. So it really has been a journey over the past 6 years of building the system to do what we need it to, and then making sure that we're trying to capture the data as well as we can when you have people in the mix that we're human. So we're fallible and not everything makes it into the CRM like we want it to, but we have implemented some different things that help take the guesswork out of it and keep it more automated so it's easier to track.
Yes. And this might be pretty lateral, but on college campuses where you'll see students walking through a big green grassy field and they're avoiding all of the sidewalks. They call that a desire path, a path of desire. And so I feel like it's the same thing when people are using Salesforce. And the reason that you've had to build so many automations is there's ways that the sales reps want to do it and have it be done. In order to see their desire path as they're working through a CRM, you've made so many improvements to Salesforce and growing it to be what it is today.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's the most robust CRM I've seen out of anywhere I've worked. So I'm very impressed by you.
All right. So first, tell us who you are, who you work for, and what that company does.
My name is Jordan Weiss. I am head of marketing, vice president of marketing at Umojo. We provide mobility and parking solutions for the industry. We provide intercom technology and command center technology for off-street parking, as well as curb management solutions for the on-street municipal market.
And your curb management, let me stop. Okay. Courtney will edit that out. Okay. So your curb management stuff is actually getting hot. Is that right?
It is. Yeah, we're seeing the momentum. The market is starting to understand the criticality of managing that valuable piece of real estate in the downtown area, which is the curb.
Yeah.
There's a lot of entities that are fighting for curb space these days. You've got parkers, you've got Ubers and Lyfts, you've got delivery vehicles, loading trucks, all those types trying to compete for that space. So trying to get some order around that chaos is becoming a big issue for cities.
And then the most recent innovation is the digital sign.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, do you have any competition for that digital sign? Is there anybody else that does it?
There are
Not that you have to name your competitors, but like
there are a few out there. There are
Okay.
a few out there, but the concept around it is really to cut down on the number of those static signs going up and down all the different
that
places.
nobody reads.
That nobody reads because
Yeah.
there's too many signs.
And what time is it?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to park here? And-
Exactly.
yeah.
If you could have one sign that could be digitally switched remotely on demand
Yeah.
to tell you what is the parking policy for that particular area at any given time, imagine what a beautiful parking zone that would look like.
I can imagine it. All right. So then the hook for the show is, what's the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of the job is from a marketing. I'm a marketing guy.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
so I think educating the market on certain aspects of the value of what we do. And not just the value of what we do, but the value of the overall solution. For instance, curb management. It's a new market. Cities understand they have a problem, but they don't understand. A lot of them don't understand how to solve that problem yet.
Okay.
So just like introducing any new product or new offering into the market, it's that education.
And-
It's trying to educate the market
Yeah.
and ourselves and all of our competitors and partners. We're all trying to educate the same market, and we all need to work together to do that in collaboration because, as I say, rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, for sure. And where does curb management and the quandary of the curb line up with municipalities' priorities, do you think?
That's a great question. It is inching its way up the priority list for cities because they're seeing the vast impact it's having on climate, environmental issues, safety issues, general efficiency, and economic prosperity within the downtown. Busy curb and chaotic curb causes traffic congestion,
Yeah.
causes people to maybe not visit certain retail establishments or restaurants or businesses downtown because they can't find parking.
Yeah, it's clogged up.
So it's a cascading series of challenges that they're seeing. So I think the importance is it's inching its way up because it's so far reaching in the implications.
Makes perfect sense. All right. What do you do when you're not parking cars?
I'm either attending my kids' sporting events or I'm trying to get out on the golf course more and
Is that right?
make a fool of myself out there.
I have 3 rules of golfing. The first is we're all bad in our own way.
Right.
The second rule is I don't care what your score is. I only care what my score is. So I don't care how many times you have to hit the ball. And the third rule is you got to play fast.
Yes.
You can play with anybody. So I played on Sunday with my son who can hit the ball 300 yards and the club champion who can hit it 300 yards. And then one other guy, they could hit it 300 yards. So they were bombing their ball literally 70 yards past me. And we got to the first tee and I was like, I promise I'll play fast.
That's my motto also. And I will say that a lot of times I don't even keep my own score.
Yeah.
I'll write down the score of the good holes, but some of them
There you go.
I'll just skip that.
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
All right. I hope you have a good show.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Likewise.
stopping by. All right. So let's start with who you are, who you work for, and what that company does for parking.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Amanda Duffy. I work with TagMaster North America. We're an identification solutions provider. We offer license plate recognition, long-range RFID, commercial vehicle management software, and access to software solutions. So we fit into a lot of different parts of the parking system.
Yeah. Okay. And do you sell to others outside of parking as well?
We sure do. Yep. We
Yeah.
cover industrial types of markets.
Yeah,
a lot of
okay.
Security.
And what's the split? Or are you focused 100% on parking?
No, so we do a little bit of everything. So
Okay.
I would say parking is probably 40% of the pie.
Okay. So you're going to a lot of other shows.
We are,
Oh,
yeah,
my.
probably 10 to 15 a year.
Oh, all right. So maybe I already know the answer to this. So what's the hardest part of your job?
That is a really good question. So there's a couple of different parts. I would say probably the most difficult would be connecting all of the dots in the different types of ecosystems across different markets and verticals.
Okay. Yeah.
Where something might be a huge benefit in the industrial sector, but then when you move over to an airport, that is not a benefit anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different things and just trying to balance all this together. But I feel like that's also one of my favorite parts of the job. But
You got to figure out, you got a solution sell. You got to figure out what they need. And yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Tell me a story about an airport that is a customer and how they use your product.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the airports is Spokane. They're right in our backyard in Washington State, where we're
Yeah.
based out of. They actually have been using our RFID for almost 10 years. And about 5 years ago, they deployed our ground transportation management software to help track and audit all of the commercial vehicles, taxis, hotel shuttles, private car services coming onto the airport property.
Okay.
And then maybe about 2-3 years ago, they were curious, do we have some revenue leakage? Is there some compliance issues of people not using their RFID tags correctly? Because
Yeah.
people being people, they're going to
Yeah.
try to get out of paying for
Yeah.
things they can. So they ended up deploying the LPR in addition to the RFID. And the ROI was surprising to them and us, just how much it was able to capture. So that's been a fun case study to look at. If you're charging $5 a trip, and with RFID, maybe you're tracking 300 trips a day. And then with LPR, you get an additional 150 trips that might have been delinquent drivers beforehand.
Yeah.
And that's $750 a day, which doesn't sound huge, but that's $250,000 a year.
Yeah. That's real money.
Revenue that they didn't even know they
Yep. So if they do just RFID, is it on the car or is it in a Prox card?
No, so generally it's on the vehicle.
Okay.
And for those types of revenue base, you generally want to do a non-transferable credential.
Yeah, like a
headlight
badge?
sticker
Oh,
or
okay.
a windshield sticker tag.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if someone tries to tamper with it,
Yeah.
peel it off, move it around, it's not going to work anymore. So
Yeah.
it can
Okay.
raise a flag.
Yeah. Oh, you probably thought of all the angles. Right? How long have you been with the company?
Over 9 years.
Okay. Almost as long, a little longer than I've been. So that's great.
Almost a decade.
Okay. And then what do you do for fun when you're not parking cars?
I have a 4-year-old son. I have a horse. Chickens. I like gardening.
Okay. That 4-year-old probably keeps you busy.
That's pretty much the main topic.
Yeah. Yeah, don't blame you. That's great. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope you have a great show. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you too.
Okay.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, so can you please state your name and where you're from?
Yes, my name is Robert Wilson. I am from North Carolina, but I'm recently relocated to Austin, Texas.
That's exciting. I just got back from Austin a few months ago, and it's a great city. It's fun. It's
Oh
a good
yeah,
city.
did you enjoy it?
I did. I loved it. It was my first time there, but hopefully I'll be back at some point. We'll see.
Gotcha.
But who do you work for? Why are you here at PIE?
Oh yeah, so I am co-founder and CEO of Parking Pen. We connect people to parking spots all without hardware. We use geolocation technology in order to connect people to places.
That's exciting. So can you tell me more about how you founded it and how exactly you got there?
Yes. So honestly, I was a frustrated college student. I put myself through college. I went to school at North Carolina A&T. And with that, I would navigate back and forth from my internship. It was located in Greensboro, but I would travel 45 minutes to my engineering internship. I'm a traffic engineer. Everything all made sense to where I wanted to be as far as parking insights and just providing people with analytics for urban planning. But to fast forward about my story, I was driving back from my internship. It was a tough day. I had a quiz day. I came back for evening classes, and there were no parking spots available. As you could imagine, right, on a college campus.
Oh, that's not normal at all. I mean, who would have
Right.
guessed?
Yeah, so I navigated to the engineering building, no parking spots. And then I went to the library, like, okay, maybe there's a spot at the library. No. Then I went to the residential hall. After about 3 to 4 lots, I just parked off of campus. And now I am sprinting to class, just hoping that I can make my quiz. only to be greeted by the infamous locked door in my face.
It's the worst.
It
Ugh.
is heartbreaking. So I just wanted to see if anybody else was going through the same hardships that I had. I would circle lots for 20 minutes, just hoping that I could make it to class. And we did a commuter survey on our campus. We got about 1,000 commuter insights for that campus. And the average wait time was 20 to 25 minutes that students were waiting for a parking space. Some of the data was 1 hour or 2 hours, but for a 50-minute engineering class and you're missing about 20 minutes of your class time, that's just not going to cut it, especially for someone like me who's paying for their education. So I didn't see at that time anything in the industry that could help me in my situation. So I just got into the parking industry and wanted to blend my traffic engineering background to see how I can identify lot hotspots and also pinpoint exactly where prohibited activity was occurring. So
That is a crazy story on how
yes.
you did make the active choice to get into it because you saw a problem that you're like, this is an injustice. I have to fix it.
Oh, yes.
So that's really okay. And then a question we're asking everybody here at PIE, founding a company is it's difficult. It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
So then what would you say the hardest thing has been about founding a company?
Yes. So as a first-time founder, I would say it's a lot of feeling through the weeds until you get that inflection point of growth. But you always have to know that you have to remain positive, even when it could feel like, oh, the weight of the world is against you, or I need to meet this KPI or this goal or have all of this go perfectly. But you just have to know if there's stumbles along the road, it's just an obstacle in life. You could easily jump over an obstacle with the right mindset and just really hone into community like we were talking about a little bit earlier. Making sure you have people in your corner, people that know about, what you bring to the table, and then connections will become facilitators. That's the main point of advice I would say. Yes, the road of being a founder is bumpy, but it also has its great perks like being able to be a part of the PIE conference, being able to also be able to be familiar with you on the podcast network and join alongside you with Parking Today Media. It's just so many great insights that you can have as long as you open your mouth and have a conversation. So
100%. I totally agree. And then so before we sat down for this portion of the podcast, I was on your podcast, Put It
Right.
in Park, which is on YouTube. And I'm
Yes.
excited. after the expo hall, I'm going to have to check it out.
Oh, yes.
So can you tell me about what that has been like in
Yes.
starting your podcast?
Yes, so we are newcomers to the podcast industry. I met with Kevin Uhlenhaker. I'm also in Austin right now, so he's taking me under his wing. And I was telling him about how I wanted to start a podcast, and he was telling me about some ideas that he had towards the PIE conference. So here I am today. But what I wanted to do is spin a blend of, because you know how I was telling you about, I went through the problem as a commuter. I feel like sometimes we don't really get to hear all of the commuter insights that are occurring around a campus, maybe a church, hospital. We want to hear about those insights, but also blend the insights of administrators at that campus or just hear about their day-to-day struggles. So I want to hear all of the real, raw, and transparent conversations on my podcast. And I want to blend those insights together so that we can come up with effective solutions for both the commuter and the administrator.
So I like how your podcast bridges with what your company goals are.
Yes.
I love that you're highlighting that, but it's also interesting because like we're two sides of the same coin where we're highlighting on this podcast a lot of struggles that parking professionals are going through. And we
Yes.
never really hear the commuter side of it. So I'm really interested to see like in the data that you're collecting and
Oh.
everything that you're doing. I think that's really interesting. And I'm excited
Oh,
to
yes.
learn
I'm
more in
so
the future.
excited as
That's very
well.
fun. But thank you for joining us
Oh,
on a
thank
little
you
clip
for
of
having
Harder Than
me.
It Looks.
Okay. So introduce yourself.
Wes Bain with FAAC Parking Solutions.
Okay. I wanted to hear how you introduced FAAC. We all call it FAC.
Right.
Everybody does. Okay. How long have you been in parking, Wes?
I will be going on my 13th year by the end of this year.
Is that right? Okay. And how long have you worked for? Which company did you work for before it became FAAC? Or did you work for FAAC?
I was originally hired into Signature Controls,
Okay.
which became TIBA
Yeah.
shortly after. And at the time, I do believe that TIBA was already owned by FAAC.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I think a year later that
the FAAC Parking Solutions brand was unveiled last at IPMI, in fact.
Yeah. Okay. So who hired you at Signature?
I was hired by Michael Ball.
Okay. All right. So now that gives me a sort of a time frame. Right. All right. So what's the hardest part about your job?
Hardest part about my job, I'd say it's making sure that when you have a very wide client base that you want to be respectful to and take care of,
Yeah.
that you're giving everyone, not to say equal attention, but making sure no one's left out.
Yeah. It's hard. Supporting all of a big base of customers is really a challenge. Okay. And Signature was your first job in parking.
Was not.
Oh, okay. Tell me. So go back a little bit.
My
then.
first job in parking was with a valet company called Town Park.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Might have heard of them.
Yeah, sure.
So I joined Town Park in 2013. This is a side gig while I was in college,
Yeah.
music major.
Okay.
Just to get some extra beer money.
Yeah.
As a hotel valet at the Louisville Marriott downtown.
Nice. In Columbus?
In Louisville.
Okay. Oh,
It's
so you went to Louisville.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Bellarmine University.
Oh, yeah. Sure. I've heard of it.
In Louisville.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what instrument do you play?
I was a piano major.
Okay.
But I also play a guitar, drum set, bass guitar.
All right. So you get a wide repertoire of instruments that
Yes.
you can play. Okay. So before you got into parking, what did you think about parking? Or did you think about parking?
I did it. I thought about, man, I don't want to pay for my oil change, so I'm going to ride it out as long as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. Nobody wants to pay for parking, right? Yeah. My experience was, so I've been in 9 years, in parking 9 years. And before that, I was like, it's parking. Like, is that an industry? Does it actually exist? And then I walked into PIE, ironically, 2015, and I was like, holy crap. Now, back in 2015, the big thing was LED lights.
Oh,
okay. There were
right.
like 5 or 6 LED light manufacturers. There was very little technology. It was crazy. And then 9 short years later, now there's no more LED light people because all the lights are pretty much LED.
Yep.
And now there's the 2025 version, I guess 10 years later, of LED lights. It's apps and it's all of the other gadgets that drives parking.
Yeah. It's interesting to see those types of trends arise, and they either get devoured and fused with everything that's out there, or they go away. One of the things I think of going away is the waving technology that was popular due to the
COVID
pandemic. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
Yeah. So I told you I was a piano major, but sadly, I dedicated most of my time to the parking industry and stopped practicing for about 10 years. Just purchased a piano.
Nice.
To really make sure I get engaged back in that practice.
Okay.
Been doing a daily practice. I even bought a portable keyboard that I can practice on while I'm in the airport.
Okay. So
traveling.
that sounds like you're driving to something. Are you going to get back into performing?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay. Going to go to a piano bar or something?
I might just go out into the hall. I played on that white grand piano
Yeah.
on Monday.
How did it sound?
It sounded pretty good. Well, it needs to be tuned, but
Yeah.
it sounded good enough
Yeah.
for what I was doing.
That's great. All right. Thank you for joining us and for being a part of Harder Than It Looks, PIE edition. And I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to do more.
Okay, let's do it. That's a wrap on this episode of Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, presented by Parker Technology. Please leave us a review if you liked what you heard. Make sure you tune in next month as we continue to uncover tips, tricks, and best practices to manage what we all know is harder than it looks, parking a car. Bye for now.